stretching across the continents to provide you positive, relevant, and balanced information with fresh insight from those in the know, right in the land, focusing a biblical lens on Israel and the Middle East. You're watching Focal Point.
Hello, and welcome to this brand new edition of Focal Point, where our point of focus is always on Israel and the Middle East. I'm your host, Kevin Howard.
And I'm Stacy Howard. We have some amazing and fresh information for you in the next half hour that you'll hopefully find positive and relevant in your understanding of Israel and the Middle East in relation to the world we live in today.
Later in this show, we sit down to discuss the incredible recovery of an amazing Israeli city, a decade after suffering some of the worst terrorism incidents of the early 2000 Intifada campaign. We also take a historical and prophetic look at the mystery surrounding Jerusalem's famous Eastern Gate. And you'll want to stick around for some fresh insight on some very relevant information from an expert on Islam's viewpoints of democracy and the history of Jerusalem.
We'd like to start our program by taking a look at the Land for Peace initiatives from a close-up and unique perspective. Focal Point recently sat down with Sandra Barras, the director of Christian Friends of Israeli Communities. She explains her views on how the Land for Peace situation in Gaza has turned out so far, as well as her thoughts on a two-state solution.
Well, the disengagement from the Gaza Strip was just the last or most recent in a number of territorial concessions to the Palestinians. What happened with the Gaza Strip, of course, was for the first time close to 10,000 people were forcibly removed from their homes. It was a terrible, terrible thing. And those people suffered terribly. And to this very day, there are still hundreds of families who are not yet in permanent homes, which is an outrageous thing. And it's something to keep in mind when you hear people all over the world still, political leaders in the United States and in Europe, will talk about dismantling the settlements. Well, what does that mean? These are cities and towns and villages where people live. And you're talking about throwing them out of their homes, which is a totally inhumane thing to do. And yet this is something that people are willing to consider. So I would say one thing that this Gaza thing created was a precedent. And you could say a dangerous precedent. But on the other hand, I like to look at it as something that at least here in Israel, people are saying, we're not going to do that again. We're not going to do that again, first of all, because it caused tremendous human suffering. But even more, it caused human suffering for no good reason. And that suffering continues because where we moved out, supposedly in order to make a concession for peace, what we got in return was more terrorism than ever before. If you look at the geography of the land of Israel and the history, you'll see there has never been two states in this tiny little part of the world between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. First of all, the width of the country, from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, 50 miles. Can you imagine dividing that in two? I mean, 50 miles, that's the length of some American cities. And yet they want to divide that length into two states. And the borders that they're suggesting, if we go back to the pre-67 borders, we're talking about 40 miles for the Arabs and 10 miles for the Jews. Add to that the fact that those 40 miles are in the mountains, which is where we are now here in Samaria, and the 10 miles that they want to leave us is on the coastal plain. So it's national suicide to agree to any kind of two-state solution, certainly the way it is being put forward. The response we get then, so what are you going to do with all these Palestinians? Don't they have a right to be citizens? Don't they have a right to vote? And I say they absolutely have a right to be citizens, and they absolutely have a right to vote, not in Israel. There is a state of Palestine already. It's called Jordan. Jordan was part of the original Palestine Mandate. And in fact, Jordan represents 75% of mandatory Palestine. But instead of taking that 75% and giving it to the local people, the Arabs who lived in this region, the British had to pay off some debts to these sheiks that were coming up from Arabia. It's a whole long story at the end of World War I. The bottom line is there's this small ruling class, the Hashemite family, that rules Jordan. They are not Palestinian. They are from Arabia. If indeed Jordan were a democracy today, which it is not, but if it were a democracy and they were to have democratic elections, there would be a Palestinian state, because that's who makes up those people. So my feeling is, if you had Palestinians living here among us in Judea and Samaria, that's fine. I'm not here to throw them out. I certainly don't want the terrorists among us. But people who want to live with us in peace, that's fine. Let them stay here. But they can be citizens of Jordan. And if indeed we are living in a region that people want to live with each other in peace, we want to create better lives for everybody, improve the health and the education and the economic status of everybody living here, we can do that in cooperation with Jordan. And the Jews are citizens of Israel, and the Arabs are citizens of Jordan.
After we take a short break, we're going to introduce you to a fantastic author of a brand new book that discusses the history, the mystery, and the prophetic future of Jerusalem's famous Eastern Gate. And later in the show, we sit down with an expert on Islamic history who provides us some valuable insight on the Islamic world.
But during the next few minutes, we'd like you to see some of the most amazing hands-on ministry work happening today right in the land of Israel. Founded over 25 years ago, Christian Friends of Israel continues to assist and provide for those most in need right in the heart of Israel.
Shalom, my name is Ray Sanders. I'm the Executive Director and Co-Founder of Christian Friends of Israel Jerusalem. If you've never considered a visit to the land of Israel, we as Christian Friends encourage you to do so. This is an amazing country of many opportunities that God is doing in these last days. Come and see what Jewish people have done over the last 65 years developing this beautiful nation.
And I'm Sharon Sanders, co-founder of Christian Friends of Israel Jerusalem, and I invite you also to be a part of this ministry that God has raised up in Jerusalem for Christians to be able to partnership and to be a blessing to Israel. Christians from all over the world have come to make this ministry alive. We're living stones and living witnesses to the Jewish people of how much we love them and appreciate them for all they have given to the world, and especially to the church. We have decided to obey the command in Genesis 12:3, which says, I will bless those who bless my people. And we have developed projects that touch the lives of many Jewish people, and you are able to be a part. You are able to partnership with us in this work. We have an outreach to immigrants who are coming from around the world. Over 250,000 have come to our doors to receive help and assistance while they're settling back in their land. I think CFI, Christian Friends of Israel, has probably one of the most beautiful bridal salons in the country, as Christians from all over the world have stocked and supplied this beautiful salon. And then we have an outreach to survivors of the Holocaust who are getting older and obviously have only a certain amount of time to tell of what they saw and what they witnessed during the Nazi Holocaust. We also have an outreach to the church in Israel and to believers throughout the land. And in addition to that, we have an outreach to Ethiopian Jewry who have come from Addis Ababa in miraculous airlifts, and they need a lot of help in settling back into the land. We have various projects that touch the lives in a special way, undoing damage that the historical church did against the Jewish people for centuries. Will you help us? Will you be there with us, be connected with our hands and our feet as we're on the ground here for you to be able to say we're Christians and we're friends of the Jewish people. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you and shalom.
To partner with the Ministry of Christian Friends of Israel through prayer, volunteering, or financial gifts, please visit cfijerusalem.org.
Welcome back. For centuries, the closed eastern gate of Jerusalem's Old City has been surrounded by both biblical history and prophecy. Recently, Gene Little, author of the book Messiah's Gate, shed some new light on a very unique treasure located right within Jerusalem's old city walls.
This gate is sacred to all three faiths here in the city, to the Jewish, to the Muslim, and to the Christian. To the Jews, in Ezekiel, it talks that when the first temple was here and was destroyed, the Spirit of God left it, and it hovered for a while at the eastern gate. The Jews used to come many years before they had the Western Wall, and they would come at this gate, call it the Gate of Mercy, and they would pray before it and beseech God for answers to their prayers. For the Muslims, they have taken it a bit further, and they say that this whole gate is sacred because Muhammad ascended unto heaven. This was the farthest where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is. This is the farthest point where he traveled in his vision or dream. And to the Muslims, this is where Allah will come back and judge the living and the dead. And at this gate here, they take a verse out of the Quran and say this is where the judgment is going to be. For the Christians, we have a belief this is where our Lord is coming back. It says in Zechariah that his feet will touch upon this mountain in Zechariah 14. The Mount of Olives will split, and then the Lord will come back. And I know that our Lord is going to come through this gate, or what's left of it. I believe it shall crumble into dust, and the King shall be in residence here. This is a gate that surely was led unto the temple there, and part of the secrets that is not generally known was that in 1969 we had a biblical archaeologist up there looking at the gate, and close enough as he got there, it had rained heavily the night before, and as James Fleming stepped up to look at the gate, he fell through the ground underneath it into a huge burial pit. As a biblical archaeologist, he took his camera and took several photos, and of the photos it showed that there was another archway underneath this gate. There may very well be a hidden gate beneath the eastern gate, which would be the ancient Shushan gate that our Lord would have come through. Another one of the secrets that the gate holds is its position. Israeli archaeologists and other archaeologists such as Leon Rittmeyer have disputed where the temple was, and you can see, as Jesus said, that not one block would remain, and when you go up on the Temple Mount, it's hard to tell where that ancient temple, Herodian temple, was, but many people feel there's going to be a third temple here, and so it would have to line up with the gate so that it would catch the first light of sun. And so if this is the true gate where the Shushan gate is buried underneath, then the temple would be lined up, and that would be, Professor Kaufman believes that it's by the Dome of the Spirit on the northern approach. I found in studying this gate, you've really got to study your Christian history. If the rocks could cry out, this gate would have some of the most interesting stories for us to look into, because this gate has been here 1,600 years, even though in 1537 to 41, when Sultan Suleiman had it blocked up in the cemetery in front. Before that, it used to have wooden gates, and people used to come in and out twice a year. But I think about all the people that have found graffiti on there, and it is part of the history of this city, and to me, it is a sign to the Muslim, to the Jew, and to the Christians that Messiah is coming. You know, it's a small jump of faith to say that he's coming on this mountain here, and he's coming to reign and rule in the city of Jerusalem and take his rightful place. So that gate is going to be transformed. Our lives are going to be transformed. Glory, hallelujah.
During the Intifada of the early 2000s, one of the cities worst hit by terrorism was the city of Netanya. While seriously affected by the tragedy of dozens of suicide bombings, a decade later, Netanya is now a thriving community once more through the efforts of the Netanya Foundation and ministries like CFI, whose efforts are dedicated to helping those in need. The Netanya Foundation's Executive Director, Shlomi Warner, shares the city's positive story of renewal.
As you know, Netanya is in the central of the state of Israel. In one hand. On the other hand, we are very close to the barrier of Tulkarem. In 2002, as you mentioned, we had more than 25 suicide bombs that was in Netanya. One of the major suicide bombs was in Passover in 2001, when it More than 30 people died in this explosion in Park Hotel. From that moment, Netanya was in a big crisis on the economic level, on the society level, and the action and reaction that come after is a lot of treatment that we have to give to the citizen. Thank God we don't have it anymore, so we focus in numbers of other projects, which is not considered to the suicide bomb. It can be on senior citizens, children, parents, elderly people, youngest people. We cover all of the people who are living in Netanya. We have the largest Ethiopian community. We have more than 50,000 residents that decide to live in the city. From that number, we have 5,000 of children in the age of 8 to 12. And those children are split in 4 schools. That in that school we have more than 90% of them are Ethiopian, which is a big challenge. We don't say we have a problem in the city. We say we have challenge. So all the projects that we made is a part of the challenges that we have around the city. We do a daycare center. We provide meals and helping in homework to those children. We're helping in senior citizens with projects that we're doing for them in the clubs. We made such project with CFI, with Christian Friends of Israel, that we bring them to be part of our society. We renovated the computer rooms. We bought 12 computers. And with that rooms, when we done to renovate it, it's really changed the lives of the senior citizens. Why? Because they can talk with their grandchildren. They know how to use the Facebook. They know how to write a letter. They know how to use the internet, which is something that they didn't know in the past how to use it. So we are very proud that we bring them, and from when it became popular, this room, more and more people, senior citizens, when they read it on the newspaper that we renovate this room, they come again, more and more. So now we started with 25 senior citizens, and today we have more than 257 senior citizens who are waiting every day to use this computer room. And for me, is a big change, is for the community change, it changed the life of people, and it gave to the senior citizens a hope to talk with their grandchildren, even in Facebook, even in Skype, which is something they didn't do in the past.
Right after a short break, we sit down with an expert on the Israeli Arab population as he shares his viewpoints on the Islamic world and how it relates to Judaism and Christianity.
But right now, we want to take another look into the ministry efforts of Christian Friends of Israel located right in the heart of Jerusalem. A people-to-people ministry meeting the real-life needs of those living in the land of Israel today.
Shalom, I'm Sharon Sanders and co-founder of an organization, a Christian ministry called Christian Friends of Israel, Jerusalem. And I'm standing beside a small olive tree here in the land. Olive trees are proficient all over the land, and it's a symbol of peace. It's been a symbol of peace ever since the days of Noah, when the dove brought the olive branch back to Noah to let him know that the land was at peace and that all things were well. Well, we think of peace today, and it's a conversation of most media around the world and in the newspapers, the radio, television. And we bring you a way that you can be totally at peace in your relationship with the Jewish people, because God has commanded us in the Bible, in Genesis 12, verse 3, I will bless those who bless my people. And we want to bring a blessing to the Jewish people and let Israel know that her Christian brothers and sisters all over the world are standing strong with them in these days. Will you help us to bring the peace symbol, to show how much our love is for them? You can come alongside of this ministry of Christian Friends of Israel and become a partner with us. You can partner in all the projects, whether it's to Holocaust survivors, victims of terror, Ethiopian Jewry, Russian Jewry, believers in the land, the poorest of the poor and the needy. Many opportunities and choices to choose from to partner with Christian Friends of Israel. And so in this troubled world, in the days in which we live, you can be a symbol of peace by joining alongside of Christian Friends of Israel and becoming this symbol to the Jewish nation. May God bless you as you prayerfully consider come alongside.
Hi, I'm Ray Sanders. We encourage you to come alongside of our ministry and support the nation, the people of Israel in these last days. God is doing miraculous things among His chosen people, and we want you to be a part of that. So partnership with us and be a blessing to the people of Israel.
You've just seen some stories of real, live people and ministries and organizations within the land of Israel. Come with us again the next time that we come into your home on this program called FocalPoint, and come alongside of the ministry of Christian Friends of Israel, and we'll partner together for the glory of God in this hour. Shalom, and God bless you from Jerusalem.
To partner with the Ministry of Christian Friends of Israel through prayer, volunteering, or financial gifts, please visit cfijerusalem.org.
Welcome back. When people in Western culture speak of democratic freedoms in society, that language does not always mean the same thing to others around the world. For some relevant insight on this issue, we sat down with Dr. Mordecai Kadar, a scholar and lecturer from Bar Ilan University, to get his unique view into the Muslim understanding of democracy, as well as the role that Jerusalem plays within the Muslim culture.
Democracy is like a cake, which is baked from many ingredients: human rights, political freedoms, freedom of speech, freedom of women, minority rights, freedom of religion, freedom from religion, and so forth, freedoms. All these freedoms, or most of them, either contradict the Quran, especially freedom of women. Since when a woman has the right in Islam to choose her spouse? A father is marrying his daughter off. In Islam, virginity is more important than the woman's life. So, and so forth, and especially minorities. Minorities in Islam, Christians and Jews and Zoroastrians should be subjugated to Islam, can live as zimmis. Those who live under the auspice of Islam, under the mercy of Islam, they have no rights like Muslims. So when you talk about democracy as a Western cake baked with all those freedoms which Islam can very hardly accept, the chances of real democracy, as we witness in the West, are very low. The basic difference between Jerusalem in Judaism and Christianity on one side and Islam on the other side is the difference between history and legend. While for Jews and Christians, Jerusalem is part of their history. Jewish kings reigned in Jerusalem, dynasties for altogether around 1,000 years, both temples. And for Christianity, Jesus Christ was in Jerusalem, preached in Jerusalem to his brethren, the Jews. In Islam, the whole thing about Jerusalem is based on a legend of the night journey to the Al-Aqsa, not to Jerusalem, to Al-Aqsa Mosque, which originally it was not in Jerusalem. It was in a village named Al-Ji'rana between Mecca and Taif, inside the Arab Peninsula. It was brought to Jerusalem, the Al-Aqsa, 50 years after Muhammad passed away in the year of 682. Because of a rebellion in Mecca, the caliphs who controlled the empire from Damascus, the Umayyad dynasty, looked for an alternative place for pilgrimage instead of Mecca, because Mecca was blocked and the roads were closed, and those people from Damascus area could not go to Hajj to Mecca. The Muslim scholar from the 14th century, Ibn Taymiyyah, declared that Jerusalem has no meaning in Islam more than any other city, because he understood that the whole sanctifying of Jerusalem was because of political dispute between Mecca and Damascus of the 7th century. And he declared that Jerusalem has no sanctity more than any other city. And of course, the Temple Mount, or what they call Al-Aqsa, became a city dump until the beginning of the 20th century, when the Zionist campaign started to come to Israel. So for them, the fact that Jerusalem is controlled by Jews is impossible, because this will bring Judaism back to life. What will be with Islam? Islam came to the world to build itself on the ruins of Judaism and Christianity. So how could Jews come back and to Jerusalem? So they view the whole thing about Jerusalem from the theological point of view, before it is anything connected to territory or to things connected to politics or to nationalism or anything. Islam came to the world not to live side by side with Judaism and Christianity. Islam came to the world to replace it. And any achievement of Judaism and Christianity is viewed by Muslims as something which comes on the expense of Islam. This is why, basically, they cannot have peace with Judaism and Christianity. Jews and Christians can live peacefully under Islam, not as independent, and especially not in this country.
As always happens, we've reached the end of our time with you for this edition of Focal Point. We hope that you feel more informed about the issues that are relevant to you concerning Israel, and that you'll share this information with family and friends.
That's right. And don't forget, we absolutely love to hear from you. That's why we invite you to email us at info@focalpointtv.com with your questions about Israel, your prayer considerations, and any personal thoughts you might have regarding future Focal Point topics.
If you, however, prefer to reach us by phone, you can simply call the number on the screen.
As always, it has been a joy to spend this last 30 minutes with you, and we thank you for spending time with us.
We look forward to seeing you next time as we turn our point of focus to Israel and the Middle East, right here on Focal Point.
Thanks for watching, and goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
Focal Point is brought to you by Christian Friends of Israel, Jerusalem. For more information about any of today's guests, email us at info@focalpointtv.com. To partner with the Ministry of Christian Friends of Israel through prayer, volunteering, or financial gifts, please visit cfijerusalem.org. Focal Point is a production of Level E Media, Incorporated.